All right, welcome into Cleveland Browns Daily. Minicamp is underway. Let's go straight to the podium and Myles Garrett.
Like I said, being that leader, setting that standard, and showing guys how it's done instead of expecting them to know it. Guys come from different places, come from college, and you got to push them in the right direction. You got to guide them.
But do you think this team could be better than you thought it would be?
I know they'll be better. I know we will be better.
What are your early impressions of these young quarterbacks? Obviously, we've seen them for the past couple months. You got some reps with them today. And just what are your impressions seeing them on the field, in the building?
Well, oh Lord, made out the divine intervention. I only really saw Dylan today, as far as getting reps in this team, and he looks composed, running the offense pretty well. His eyes got pretty big when I got free and I was face up on him, but all of them look pretty calm, just going through their texts, going through their calls, making the plays they need to make, not doing too much right now, and they'll have time to continue to display their talents, and it's just one day at a time. Continue to earn the trust of your coaches and your teammates, and I think they'll be able to open up the game.
You just expressed the utmost confidence that this team will be better than you thought it was going to be. So just wondering what's kind of giving you this.
Being here, always staying in communication with the guys, seeing how they're working, and continue to be a presence even while I'm not physically here. But I'm back, and now it's time to go.
Do you have any conversations with some of the guys like Denzel and coming back after the hectic offseason, everything that happened with trade requests and everything like that?
For sure. I've talked to the guys, and they understand. It's a business, and we love what we do, and I love this team, and he understands that I was trying to do what's best for me, and after talking with him, and like I said months ago, talking with AB and Kev, what's best for me and what's best for this. Eventually got aligned, and we looking forward to the future of this team and how we can achieve the goals that we want to.
What's your message to do to help get the most out of your teammates? Everyone knows what you can do as an individual, but for you guys to get this thing on track, it has to come from the players. So what can you do to help extract the very best out of your teammates?
I think the intensity and the urgency just has to take another level, take another level up rather, and can't expect someone else to do it on any other side of the ball or any other position room. Got to be the leader in the entire team, and that's what's been laid out for me. Like you've said, Jimmy said it. Kevin said it, and I'll take the reins, and I'll be that guy.
What's the outgoing message to Nick Chubb as he starts a new chapter of his career?
I love Nick. And I think a lot of the guys who are in this locker room still feel the same way, as I do. It crushed us to see him get injured, have to battle through, and then it happened again. So we want the very best for him. Happy to see him. Still able to play, still able to do his thing. Want to see him go back to being the player that he was and have a smile on his face, continue to ball out.
Were you lobbying to get him back on the roster?
Yeah. That was part of my talks with AB, a couple months ago. Asking the situation with Nick and how that's gonna work out, and how we can get him back here, because I know. He means a lot to the fans, but he means a lot to us as well in the locker room. So, it's a emotional blow to not have him here. But, we got to keep on moving, keep on trucking. We got some very talented backs in that room. Some young, hungry guys who have a hell of an example to watch and some shoes to fill. But he's one of the best to ever do it in the brown and orange, and we appreciate everything he's done.
You've seen him work behind the scenes like most people have. You've seen him overcome these injuries, but obviously there's going to be questions about what he looks like moving forward. What do you think his future will look like in the NFL?
I won't put any kind of parameters, expectations, or limits on his future and what he can do, because he's broken through all the ceilings that we've set forth for him. With the recovery from the injuries that he's had, how substantial they've been, and yet he's come back, excelled, and been able to play at a high level. It's tough enough being on the NFL roster and to come back being the guy again and toting the rock. He's special, and I hope he can continue to be that.
I know you're rooting for him, but how strange would it be to see him find success somewhere else instead of here?
I think that's strange.
Wrong way to put it. Mixed feelings, maybe?
No mixed feelings. I hope and wish the best for him. That doesn't change whether he's here or anywhere else. If we play him, I hope to punish him. But if seeing him on TV, just playing on Sundays or Mondays or whenever it is, I'm going to be happy for him because he's able to play this game, and that's a privilege.
Miles, they drafted Mason to give you a little help up front. Just what are your early impressions of him, and what do you think he's going to be able to do for you?
I think he's hungry. He's pretty quiet, but
Tom just cut up.
Okay, I think we lost Miles there, but that's fine. It's good to hear from him, of course. Mandatory minicamp. Welcome in, Merely Bow. How about this for a luminary right out of the gate? Dwan Jones in. Good to see you, buddy.
Yes, sir. Pleasure to be here.
Good to get to work.
Yes, sir.
See everybody, all the familiar faces, all my guys. Miles there, Chief's there. Everybody's in the mix.
Yes, sir. It's good to have everybody back in the building, all the vets.
You're never not in the building. I see you every day coming in and out of the facility. When is there a tone difference from the top, from Kevin, from everybody? Because it's one thing that we talk to the guys when they come in here is there seems to be kind of that this feels a little different than last year.
Coach Stefanski talks about, just being tough and competitive, and I think it just carried over to everybody this year, whether you on vacation working out, but everybody's going to be tough about it. They're going to do their business and, make sure they come back in best shape. And if you're here, you're being tough and competitive versus your teammate.
It's an interesting thing, mandatory minicamp, because you guys have been working for a long time with OTAs, and then you get to this, you got this, it's 3 practices, 2 big ones, and then a shorter practice by the time we get to Thursday. For you guys, it puts a ribbon on what's been happening in the off-season program. For the fans and for a lot of the media, so much is attention on mandatory minicamp. How do you balance that as a player, what is just more practices versus what's going to be amplified by the noise outside?
It's just laying the foundation, in my opinion. That's the main thing Coach Stefanski's talked about, just starting the foundation, which it is. Just 3 days, we lay the foundation, we come back, and, we build on top of that.
When you think about everything that we do with success under Coach Stefanski that we've had, it's all started in the trenches, has been a big part of it. It's been the offensive line, the defensive line, big investment on the defensive line. I'll get to that with you in just a second. But in terms of your returning health on the offensive line, Jack getting back in the mix, the interior speaks for itself, obviously, but you got young guys who got to come along. What have you seen through the last month or so in the offensive line room as you've looked around, and is it progressing in a way that you think it should be?
Yes, a lot of guys were banged up last year, whether it was Joe, me, myself, Wyatt, Jack, and even Poe. That sucks when your whole 5 is banged up, and, we're healthy this year, and, we're just ready to work, honestly.
How do you feel?
I'm sore some days. I came off a broken leg. I'm not gonna sit here and fake it. So it definitely gets sore some days. But it's about just being tough and competitive and just fighting through it. Just for your brother.
As you've been through this off season, and like I said, I see you almost every day here as you're going through your off season program and your rehabilitation and all of it. What has this time been like for you, coming off of an injury and having to deal with that and to try to get back to feeling normal?
The main thing is just fighting through pressure or pain that, you're kind of unused to. Most of the time it's just really scar tissue, and you got to really just break that up. And I feel like I did a decent job last year on my right knee, breaking up the scar tissue. But I feel like it started to break down a little bit towards the end of the year. But, I want to do that now with my leg, just how severe it is. And, I just really want to get back to my old self.
Your old self's pretty dang good, buddy. When you're at your old self, In terms of this, a return, and you guys have been installing it. It's been there, but a return to kind of what Coach Stefanski's all about on the offensive line with the run game, and then building off of it with the play action pass, much more under center, kind of a hybrid of what we've seen over the last few years. You see the 2 drafted running backs, Jerome Ford back as well. There feels like there's going to be an emphasis on we're going to punch you in the mouth and run it down your throat a little bit. Obviously, you have to have the big plays off of it. What have you seen as a difference up front, and what can the fans expect by the time we get to the fall offensively?
I don't know how much I could say, but Coach Stefanski we've talked and just definitely, obviously, you said just making an emphasis of running the ball. And, everybody runs the ball. It doesn't matter if you're gonna stop her. It doesn't matter if you're gonna stop her or not. And that's my main point, and I think that's our main point this year. Make sure they stop us and make sure they stop us running the ball wherever we want to.
Jerome, obviously we had a pretty big rooting interest in Quinshon Judkins and what he did at Ohio State last year. Dylan Sampson, pretty good too. What do you make of the young backs?
I think they're all good. I didn't get to watch much of Dylan, I want to say, in college, but I watch Judge all the time just because he's at Ohio State. Jerome, I played with him for 2 years, and he's exceptional. And, Pierre as well. I think all the guys in the running back room are good. It's just about who's the right fit, and who plays the role the best for us.
Yeah, it's interesting. You watch that Buckeye team, and I think there's a lesson that a lot of football teams could take from that with Travion and Q, in that they kind of rode the hot hand, and then neither guy really wore out. They both stayed healthy all year, and it was quite honestly, you watch the playoff. A lot of attention is given to Will and the big plays with Jeremiah Smith, but a lot of it was built off of what they did on the ground.
Correct. I watched the playoffs, like you said, all off season, and it was a 1-2 punch, and just like how I was with Trey and Mayan, I think it was the same way with Judkins, and I think it's really going to compliment us. Just as he came off, he had to split reps. He's probably going to do the same thing again, but you get that spurt of him getting us a 10-yard, 5-yard gain, and then you got Jerome or whoever behind us to get us the next yards.
Obviously, most of the attention from the outside is on the quarterbacks. We have 4 of them here, 2 of them drafted, really accomplished college players. Joe's a Super Bowl champion, and then Kenny was a first-round pick and has 25 starts. From your perspective, is there any challenge at all to just hearing different voices in the room, or does it matter at all?
Sometimes when you get to the line, I think that's the main part. But I think that's the part we talked about in our meetings, is being versatile, being able to hear different cadences from different people. I think that's my main point, is just being able to adjust to whoever, just like when we go down, the quarterback got to adjust to a different tackle. I just want to be able to adjust to a different quarterback.
Yeah, that's going to be fascinating to see how all of that plays out. And I think all the pieces on this stuff kind of matters a lot. Talking about Dwan Jones, of course, Big Thanos here in studio with us. What are you doing? You and I were talking off air. You got the little baseball bug here a little bit, buddy.
I do a lot of stuff in my off season. I go to baseball games. I go to IndyCar, NASCAR.
Yeah,
and I love just
NASCAR. Now Indy 500, I got it. I mean, that I get. That's part of.
Yeah, I'm from Indianapolis,
right.
So you know what I mean. But also just liking cars, and I have a fast car. I have a Dodge Durango Hellcat, and so I go to the NASCAR races, and they tell me to rev my engine and all that, and but it's a good time when I go there, and it's just a good hospitality, and I just like seeing the drivers go fast and go real left.
You know what, man, too, and I think there's this feeling that you guys, that you're almost machines and you just do the football, but the reality, you have to have some release,
personality.
Yeah, man, and you got to be able to, I think you have to find ways. It's kind of cool being a pro athlete, man. Like, there's cool stuff that comes with it, and some of this stuff is nice.
Yeah, like I went up to Steb North for the race this past weekend.
Yeah,
and, it was a good race, and I'm talking to some guys, and they got the the big blue hats on.
Yeah,
and I'm, I didn't even really want to shake his hand, just because.
We're not having that.
Yeah, but I just kept respectful. He was like, I don't care. You know what I mean? Like, he was like, let me get a picture with you.
Yeah.
And I just went ahead and took the picture. I just love I can go out and just be myself. And whether or not if they don't like you from where you're from,
yeah,
but, they just still respect you and what you do.
You saw Denny drop the OH after
yes,
he won.
Sir. I was so.
I thought you'd like that.
I was so turned up. I said, "Thank God somebody did it."
Somebody did that. Yeah. It helps when you win.
Yes.
When you win, you can do it. How close are you watching these finals?
Pretty close.
Did you grow up Pacers fan or?
Yeah, I was Big Miles in the Palace guy.
Yeah.
That's my era. My favorite player growing up was Jermaine O'Neal. Or in Indy, I should say. That was like, that guy. And my mom loved Reggie Miller, and so she just talked about that and the Market Square Arena days, and people they talk about that all the time. And I wish I was there to be able to experience that. Now.
Yeah.
Hopefully I can be able to go on Friday and go to a game. But if not, I'm not tripping. I'm rooting for the Pacers no matter what.
I think it's the best pure basketball arena in the NBA. It's built straight up. Every seat's awesome.
What they say, every other state is just a sport, but Indiana is basketball.
You were a pretty dang good high school basketball player. What was the coolest basketball arena you played in high school?
Ooh, that's so tough. Obviously, I think I had to go with Southport. That's a no-brainer, but.
Did you get
Newcastle?
to Newcastle?
I was just going to say that. Newcastle.
Did you play there?
Yes, I played Newcastle in the Indiana All-Star game. That was probably I was one of the best feelings ever. And I'm a big court guy, and they got parquet court.
They do,
which is like Celtics and the Magic, and I love that.
Did you ever go to the Hoosiers gym?
I played there. Well,
did you play there?
I got invited to the game. So there's Terhune versus Hickory, which is the movie that was the teams together, and I was on Terhune and got to play in the game, and it was an amazing experience. Little gym, but
dude, you walk in there, it's like walking on a movie set. Though.
Yeah, it really
time
is.
Stood still.
Yes, it's really small in there, but it's always a good vibe. It was real tight, but I was going against my buddies from growing up, so it made it better.
Did you ever play at Hinkle?
No, that's one place that I wish that I just say would bring back playing at regionals and semi-states at colleges. I feel like it would be a real. I wouldn't say exposure because you're not supposed to be watching them, but I think it would be real good for high school players to play on a college court.
Dude, and it's a great shooting gym.
Yes.
Plus, you got Thad there and a lot of Buckeyes there.
Yes.
So
yes, Greg. Hopefully, Greg can make something happen. Talk to IHSA.
Get something to go well. Hey, man, it is great to see you. It's good to be back at mandatory minicamp for everybody involved, and continue to see you here as you go through your rehab. And once this is done, enjoy your summer, and we'll get back to work in the fall.
Thank you, Bo. Thank you for having me.
All right, good seeing you, buddy. Dwan Jones joining us here in studio. Obviously, first practice of mandatory minicamp is in the books. On the other side of this, we'll recap some of the things we saw. Those are your hot topics of the day, presented by University Hospitals, official healthcare partner of your Cleveland Browns. We're off and running. You listen to Cleveland Browns Daily. We're presented by Ballybet, official sports betting partner of your Cleveland Browns. All right, welcome back in. Mandatory minicamp day 1 in the books out here at the Cross Country Mortgage campus. Gibbe, copious notes. Copious notes, my friend.
Nothing going on today. Just nice and quiet.
Well, look, this is the fun stuff. I take this stuff.
We're juggling.
This is good. The question I asked Dwan, I think, it's kind of an important kind of to understand everything. OTAs go for a month. And then it's these last 3 that everyone's locked in on, and you have the full participation and all of that. So that's when it's noteworthy of who's here and who's not. So, for example, I know we're going to talk about T.J. Watt, and I know we're going to talk about Hendrickson and these things around the AFC North. But here, everybody's here. And you had Miles back, and we carried some of that for you off the top of the show. But this is the last of it until this sets the table, builds the foundation for where you're going to jump off from by the time you get to training camp in the fall, which is like in 6 weeks.
Yeah, this determines your snap counts for training camp for the first few weeks of training camp, or at least the first 7 or 8 days, which are vitally important.
Yeah.
Because we know once we get to training camp, if you're 3rd or 4th string, you might get 1 series. You might get 2 or 3 reps. You might not even get a series.
Yeah.
So, and then you're playing in preseason games probably, but maybe that focal point changes. This is the culmination of what started the week of the NFL draft.
Yeah.
This is the NFL offseason. And now we see how it all shakes out.
So obviously all eyes on the quarterbacks, and I'm seeing the ESPN Cleveland quarterback tracker. And I'm seeing no attempts from Joe Flacco.
First note on my copious notes. Joe Flacco did not throw a pass in organized activities. So no 7-on-7, no 11-on-11.
Yeah.
He did throw some stuff like in the positional work and whatnot, but otherwise, Joe Flacco didn't do anything today.
So we do sometimes we do that segment thing or not a thing.
Yeah.
I would say that's not a thing because, and here's why. Although I'm sure Joe would like more reps, they know what Joe is. And they know, and if you listened, this is the other part that's really important. If you listen to what we tell you on this show, that also would mean not a thing. Because we've been saying that they know what Joe is. Joe, from our vantage point, and this isn't scores, it's just pay attention to what we see. We think Joe's the break glass if all goes to hell option.
Yeah.
And the other 3 are kind of all in a similar place. And their experiences are vastly different in terms of Kenny starting 25 games in the NFL and being in his 5th year, to Dylan Gabriel, who was picked in the 3rd round, and Shador, who was picked in the 5th. But it's really those other 3 need to get – this goes back to that rep war count that we're talking about because they need the reps. We need to see what they can be. You know what Joe Flacco is. He did. He came off his couch and lit up the league for a month here. So you know that he can still do that, but you also have to be realistic to realize that Joe can't be the long-term solution here. He's a man. He's 40.
Yeah.
So you need to see what one of these other 3 guys are. So am I surprised that he got no reps? Maybe a little, but I don't think there's anything to read into it because I think they know what he is. That's my read on it. What do you make of it?
I think so. I think it was a little surprising to not at least get 1 series.
Yeah.
Because Jerry Jeudy was out there. Njoku was out there. Mm-hmm. Your wide receivers were out there. Your weapons are out there. So, yeah, I thought it was interesting that he did not throw. I'm a little curious about that, and maybe Coach was talking as we were coming off the field, and we had to get up here to start the show. Mm-hmm. We'll hear from Coach in hour 2, and hopefully that maybe a little bit of an explanation. Maybe someone asked about that because that was the one noticeable. Did not see Mike Hall out there, but I believe still rehabbing. I wouldn't expect to see him out there yet. A lot of running backs, wide receivers, maybe moving around a little bit and not necessarily in their, quote, traditional places. Like a Samson lining up wide, I believe the G-Man told me. And I'll bring G-Man in over. So we split field.
The G-Man is back.
Oh, what do you got, Kev?
Dylan Gabriel, maybe?
Yeah, would you like Dylan Gabriel?
Yeah, let's go to Dylan at the podium, yeah.
When you take those reps with the first team offense against the first team defense, how valuable is that, and does your mindset change at all?
Yeah, I think you'd like to say that you don't change the circumstances. I try to approach every single day like that, and control what you can, and that's just being, ultimately your best in that moment. And the best competitors I've been around have been the best at being present.
Dylan, you talked at rookie minicamp about your process of picking up a new playbook. Is you basically just have to go through it. How do you feel like you've gotten through it so far? It's only been a month or so, but how do you feel like that process has gone so far?
Yeah, I'd say 2 words: just continuous improvement. And in this profession, I think there's a bunch of progression and regression, but just your ability to manage that as fast as possible, I think that allows you to create improvement at a faster pace. So I just been approaching it like that, and eager to learn every single day. Just approach this like a student.
In your college career with 3 different teams, did you do much play action from under center?
Yeah, of course. I think at one point I was the play action king, I guess. We did a lot of play action early on, but UCF. But I think that's just part of it. You'd love to use play action to your advantage, but anyway, in any sense, you got to be present in that moment for that key play and adjust. But definitely have done play action.
What's it like for you to look across What's it like for you to look across and see Myles Garrett over there and know that you've got to operate with someone like that across?
Well, yeah, I think in one play, you definitely see that, in one of the team periods. But very happy he's on our team. So just as a competitor, that's what you look forward to. Playing against the best, and him being able to be out here today, and us compete. That's huge. And getting everyone back together.
Kevin Stefanski was talking about using a line during 7-on-7 to try to help the quarterbacks feel the pocket. Have you ever done a 7-on-7 like that before you came here? And then if so, do you feel there's a benefit?
Yeah, I think everyone's had their way of doing it. I've had tennis rackets in front, guys walking forward. I've had shoulder pad shields, 9-on-9. I've done kind of the mixture of it all, but all to find a solution to one problem. So have done it, but love that we're doing it here.
And then it might feel different for you in the NFL, but do you have a time frame where it feels like you're creating a connection with a receiver in your years in college, and have you started to feel that here at this level through minicamp?
Yeah, I think it's just reps, and you try to maximize your reps with guys, but anytime you can get extra reps as well, that's huge. But trying to balance that out with timing is key and something you need to do. But I think just from day one to this point, there's continuous improvement for sure.
So when you've had a few weeks out there now with Joe and Kenny also out there, what have you been, how's it been like working with them, I guess, and how have you picked their brains?
Yeah, I think just a diverse room, diversity and experience, and you just appreciate those guys, because I think what we've done as a room really well is the inability to dwell on the past. We're just extremely present, and I was just curious, does anyone know how much minutes like Joe has played in the playoffs? Like the guy's played 606 snaps. Like, this guy knows the game and has done it at a high level. So I think there's a lot of juice in the squeeze, but you got to ask the right questions, and that's what I try to approach every single day. But same with Kenny.
Did you research that on your own? That he came up with that he had 606 snaps, or did one of the coaches mention it, or what?
Well, I'm not going to walk into a situation not know what I'm walking into. So, I like to know a little bit about my teammates, and I think just in general, if you approach the game as a student, you learn every single day and you improve every single day. So that's just how I've been.
Do you get much out of virtual reality?
I think there's a balance to everything. You could ask me the same thing. Do I get much out of film? Do I get much out of walkthroughs? I think for any player, you got to find what works for you. And for me, I've loved the balance of a lot of things. Walkthroughs are key for muscle memory and being able to visualize. I think film helps you get clear pictures defensively, but also, see different looks in a certain concept. And I think virtual reality kind of, goes in that boat as well. So I would say, I've used it before. I've used it, as much as I can, but also film, walkthroughs, and just talking ball. So it's kind of a mix of everything.
Dylan, you mentioned like rookie minicamp and OTAs, and now your first day mandatory minicamp. What has been the biggest challenge for you in all three steps this time here?
Yeah, I think just being able to adapt as quick as possible. I think that's a challenge for anyone. There's a time within that you have to work through. But I think I go back to being present, and not being able to, dwell on a regression or get too high with a progression, and being just even kill throughout that. So I've been trying to just stay balanced in that way. But every single day there's something to get better at. So just approaching it that way for sure.
Dylan, I apologize.
Yeah, all good.
When you talk about there's always something to get better at, when you're going through the 7-on-7 and 11-on-7, 11-on-11, at this stage, how do you measure success?
You love to stay process driven. I think for a lot of people, it's a results based business. So let's not get that wrong. But you have to have a process behind it to be able to create consistent results. And I think whether it's a microwave mentality or that Amazon lifestyle of wanting it right away, sometimes it's just not the case. So being able to have a process, stick to it, continue to listen to your coaches, and try to get better that way. That's what I want to do. I want to build a solid foundation so that you're banking on the process and then allowing that to have consistent results.
Dylan, you mentioned the importance of asking good questions to be able to fully get the most out of Kenny and Joe's experience. What are some of the questions you've asked and what are their answers in those situations?
Yeah, I think for the most part it's more so their experiences, whether it's a certain concept or what they've done in the past, just day to day and in a daily routine. But it's also just shooting the shit, and just being the guys, because I think that's when you're able to just connect the most, in an authentic way. And for me, I just ask myself, like, have I been my most authentic self today? And that's through just asking real questions that they got real answers to.
Can you give us an example of just one of those conversations so we could paint the picture?
Yeah, I would just say, when we talk through a certain concept, couldn't give you the name, but if you think conceptually about a play, it could truly, the intent of play could change just based on how you think of it. And we had to play this off season of, maybe if it's man or zone, you play it this way, or you see it this way, but a footwork, your eyes starting somewhere could change the whole play. So appreciate Joe and Kenny for their perspective on that.
Dylan, it looks like they are heaping a lot on your plate, not only to get you ready to play, but also to kind of figure out what works or what might not work as they're putting this whole new scheme together.
Yep.
So I'm just wondering, how do you find that to be, where you are kind of having to take some of the heat or the brunt of figuring out this offense while you're also learning it?
Yeah, that's the challenge, right? But as a competitor, you walk into that challenge and face it head on. That's what you appreciate about the game too. And I think everyone in this game sees themselves as starters, and that belief of self is why a lot of guys are in the NFL. So you just continue to improve, continue to challenge yourself, and not a lot of people love it, but failure creates growth. Yet we live in a production-based business, so it's hard for people to understand that balance.
Have you ever had a teammate as big as Dwan Jones?
Say that again?
Have you ever had a teammate as big as Dwan Jones?
I have. Paul Rubelt, 6'11", tackle. So, yeah, I've luckily been able to play with 3 first-round tackles. Seen 6'11" Germany tackles. So, Dwan's just adding to the repertoire of diversity. So I'm appreciative of that.
What did that guy, the 6'11" guy, what did he weigh?
Gosh, I couldn't tell you. I wasn't with him when he hopped on the scale, but I hope a good weight,
How do you balance trying to stay process-driven with thinking about winning the starting job and maybe evaluating yourself versus the other 3 guys?
Yeah, I think for many people that's tough, and I'll go back to, like, failure creates growth, but we are in a production-based business, so it's hard for people to balance that. And for me, I just continue to stick to the process, and try to create completions, try to be understanding of the situation, but also, I have belief in myself, and everyone at this level does as well. That's why they're here. But for the most part, how can you create value right away today and be the best? And I keep going back to it, but the best competitors are the best at staying present. So my ability to just be right where my feet are, be with you, and be as honest as I can. That's all I can do.
How's that ball to the corner of the end zone at Jamari's crash feel?
Felt good. I think Jamari's just, a talented individual, but just how smart he is and understanding maybe a man-beating play, but to be able to create leverage and win in zone coverage, it allows it, to be a lot easier on my end, and then him making a, outstanding catch. So he's great in the time I've been around him, and look forward to continuing that.
Dylan, you mentioned learning from Kenny and Joe. How involved is Deshaun behind the scenes, and what have you picked up from him thus far?
Great question. He's been a guy I've connected with as well, and he's actually a guy I sit by in, our O-line meetings, even in our, offensive unit meetings. So just being able to be around him and, nudge him and ask a question, whether it's for confirmation or his thought. But also when we're talking through concepts, I think it's super cool that we do have 5 guys in the room that kind of can speak to their own experience. And even Deshaun this morning, talking through a concept and kind of how he sees it in the red area. And, I even go back, it can change the play, in a big way, just how you think of it. So, appreciate him a bunch too, just sharing all his knowledge.
Then what is, you mentioned the phrase Amazon lifestyle like that. What does that mean?
Yeah, Amazon lifestyle is like, and I don't mean Amazon in the jungle. I mean Amazon like Amazon Prime, You get on your phone and you order it, it's there to you right away. Well, and I'm not saying we should wait 7 days, right? But I'm just saying sometimes there's some work, within that, or a microwave, just heating your food up in 30 seconds rather than cutting it up, seeing the process of it. I think throughout that journey, it's a lot more rewardable, and you learn more through that.
When you're not
This is the last one.
When you're not taking reps and you're watching, what are you looking for the most? Like, what are you focusing?
Yeah, I think you want to take as much mental reps as you can, and you want to work through the footwork and try to play through the progression yourself. But within that too, within a practice, whether it's conversations with, Coach Musgrave or, any quarterback back there and say, hey, how'd you see this? I think there's a balance of, discussion, but also a mental rep. So I try to manage it that way.
Appreciate it.
Thank you guys. Thank you.
All right, Dylan Gabriel at the podium. From the podium is presented by Vivid Seats. Purchase your official fan experience package today for the ultimate game day. I'm going to give you 2 quotes that jumped out to me. One, I'm pretty close on. I wrote it down as he said it. Another one I got absolutely. I'm not going to walk into any situation unprepared. This is why he was drafted in the 3rd round. This is why universally when you asked NFL teams who was the most impressive quarterback in the pre-draft process, the answer almost universally was Dylan Gabriel. He's a pro football player. He's completely prepared for every situation. He's had to learn 3 different systems in his college career. He hopped on with us at the golf outing, and he sounded like a 5-year vet. If you listen to that availability, that sounds like a 5-year vet. That sounds like someone who's been around the block, who knows how to go about his business. The other thing that struck me was Amazon lifestyle. I've never heard it that way. I often say with my kids, like they live in an on-demand world, and that's basically the same thing, that instant gratification, give me this right now. And I think that's a really important lesson for the fan base in regard to both of these young quarterbacks, that when Mary Kay was on with us yesterday and she talked about they're being asked to do different things at different times, and also this idea of this all is going to take a little bit of time. It's important to remember all of that.
Yeah, it's a work in progress. I can tell you the 111 on 11 session, with the majority of the ones from a skill standpoint, it was Kenny Pickett, Dylan Gabriel.
Mm-hmm.
Shador was on the other field.
Yeah.
When you got at the next 11 on 11 session, it was Gabriel 1, Shador 2.
Okay.
And then 7 on 7s to wrap things up, it was Pickett, Gabriel, Shador.
Mm-hmm.
And Gabriel had himself some nice throws. Shador had some nice throws.
Yeah.
Both guys would have throws that I think they'd like to have back.
Mm-hmm.
It is a process. But like you said with Dylan Gabriel, like he's been in enough programs where he's learned from another program to help him elevate his game, at the next level, which is the next step up. And that's not discounted from Shador. We're going to hear from Shador coming up, and impressive as well.
He had, for a while, I was talking to Gerard on my way in. He said he probably had the throw of the day.
He did.
Yeah, probably had the throw of the day. But it wasn't, Gerard was saying it was not with the ones. It was,
no, it was
that
was on the other
on
field.
The other table. Yeah, on the other
and
field.
G-Man was covering that, and I will have him step over here in a few minutes and recap his copious notes. But, yeah, I mean, both guys had – so at that play that Shador had that was the play of the day, Gabriel had the play on that field to Judy.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it was bang, bang. It happened.
All right.
So
Well, we're going to go through both of your guys' copious notes.
Yep.
We'll get you updated on everything that's going around in the National Football League as well. I think a bit of a surprise to our rivals to the east in terms of what happened this morning, so we'll get to that as well. Much more as mandatory minicamp season is upon us. Day one in the books here at the Cross Country Mortgage Campus. You're listening to Cleveland Browns Daily. It's presented by Ballybet, official sports betting partner, your Cleveland Browns. For car, truck, or motorcycle accident cause you injury, call the injury lawyers at 1-800-ELK-OHIO for a free case review. Elk & Elk is a proud partner of your Cleveland Browns. We continue with the copious notes. Quarterback is what it's all going to be about. So we had, you guys, Gibbe talked a little bit about the one reps going with Kenny, and then Dylan. Flacco not getting a rep in the 7-on-7 or 11-on-11, and then the G-man returns.
Hello.
And you were good to see you, brother. And you were keeping an eye on that second field over there.
Yep. Yeah, so I wanted to highlight a couple guys on defense first.
Okay.
I thought Mason Graham looked really good in defensive tackle drills. He's explosive. I thought him and Malik Collins stood out.
Yep.
Both of those guys. And then in coverage, it was DeMonte Casey, safety they just signed from the Pittsburgh Steelers. He looked good in coverage, I think, especially.
Loved him. Really excited about that last week when he was on with us. Okay.
Shador did have the throw of the day. It was the first throw in 7-on-7 reps. It was a deep ball. I mean, it was placed right in the bucket, in stride. Deep ball's not a problem for the guy. I think that's a narrative that's been created.
It just doesn't exist. It's just not reality.
No.
And Z was talking about that last week when we were talking about how Shador can layer throws, and he can put it over the linebackers and drop it into a bucket in those holes in the zone. His ability to read what the defense is giving him and get it to the right places is very real and very natural.
That deep ball from Shador went to Gage Larvadane. He's a 5'8" receiver from South Carolina.
Okay. God bless.
Good throw, good catch. He beat the DB pretty clean. Liked it. I thought Dylan Gabriel had some good throws as well. I mean, obviously, like Gibbe said, both of these guys are going to have throws that they're going to want back. But I think Dylan Gabriel's arm strength is really what stands out to me. He can put some zip on the ball, and he can fit it into a tight window. He's an accurate passer. I think 10 to 20 yards of the sticks, he's pretty accurate.
Oh, yeah. That's what he did in college. It comes out quick. It comes out on time. There is some zip to it. Mm-hmm. I mean, honestly, like he's a lefty, so it looks a little different, but like there's a lot of Baker in him.
I agree with that, yeah.
They play very similarly, very live arm, really can whip it.
They kind of have the same build, too.
They do. Bake's a little taller, not much, but a little. But very similar. Yeah, there's a lot of similarities between the two of them.
Yeah. Flacco, all we saw was, just drills, individual drills. I think he still got it in his arm, though. That's for sure. He did throw a couple deep balls. Still got it, man. Still a pretty spiral. Jerry Jeudy, I think a couple weeks ago, was like, I understand what Amari Cooper was talking about when he's like, catching these passes from this dude is like magic. So, yeah, he looked good as well. Kenny Pickett, I thought, threw well with anticipation, actually. I still think he's an accurate quarterback, especially outside the numbers. The routes, corner routes, out routes, he puts it right on the money, right on the sideline there. So that's what I saw from the quarterbacks.
Yeah. No, it's a good notes. It's good job out of you. And that's what this is all going to be about. It's going to be about that, and all of the pieces to that are going to make up what we see by the time we get to the end of summer.
Yeah. A couple other notes. A lot of special teams work today.
Okay.
A lot.
That'll make Bubba happy.
I want to say 3 sessions worth of special teams.
Okay.
Clearly a focal point today and this week. Deuce doing a lot of assisting on special teams with the catchers.
Okay.
With the receivers or running backs, whoever's returning punts and returning kicks. He was the one getting them in alignment and setting them up,
nice.
Which I thought was interesting. And then from a receiver standpoint, I know G-Man mentioned Judy with a couple nice plays.
Mm-hmm.
Jamari Thresh has gotten bigger.
Noticeably, huh?
He's put on some weight. He had a beautiful touchdown earlier. I want to say, touchdown in 7-on-7s from Gabriel over in our corner. Had a couple real nice catches. You always worry, I think, if you're going to put on weight, if it's going to affect the speed. But so far, looks the part. All these guys are competing for that wide receiver number 3.
Well, So Ced was out today, right? Did I see that?
Yes.
He didn't participate. But we did see Deontay Johnson. Was he involved in the mandatory stuff? Or
He dropped a pass over the middle.
Okay.
That
Well, it is what
probably
it is.
should have been picked off.
Okay.
I think Schlesinger, was right there on that play. So
wondering,
that was the only time we saw really Deontay get involved in a whole lot.
Yeah. I haven't seen anything. I've been trying to keep an eye on anything. I haven't heard anything from Coach on Cedric in terms of why.
Well, he didn't participate last week in OTAs either.
That's right.
Or the one OTA that we were out there for.
Yeah. So he's a little nicked up, huh?
Yeah, I mean, Njoku had a couple plays that he was involved in. There were a number of guys that I'm like, okay, wait, who's that on the roster?
Yeah.
Some other wide receivers, running backs, other guys in the mix as well.
Yeah.
But, I mean, that's trying to see what you have, especially from a depth standpoint. I mean, Judkins looked pretty good. Sampson, as I mentioned, lined up at wide receiver.
Well, I think you'll see them try to. You're going to want to put your best weapons on the field, and it's very likely that Judkins and that those guys are both. That Sampson and Judkins are both on the field. I think there will be some packages where they're both in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, overall, it was good. It was fast paced, a lot of work. Whether it was 11-on-11s or 7-on-7s, I didn't know if you could get like 1-on-1 defensive line versus offensive line. I don't think you can because they're not in pads.
Yeah.
But I mean, those guys were active. Like in 11-on-11s, they all had roles and places they had to be. And heard our new offensive line coach Bloomgren really getting into some guys. So I think the tackle we just signed was playing some meaningful snaps. G-man.
Yeah, Jackson Barton is getting regular second team reps at right tackle. The offensive line rotation was as follows from what I saw. Dwan's getting the first team reps at left tackle, and then obviously you've got Joel, Posick, Wyatt Teller, Jack Conklin.
Mm-hmm.
And then Cornelius Lucas is on the left side of that second offensive line group. Tevin Jenkins, left guard, they just signed from – well, not just signed, but they signed from Chicago.
Yep.
Luke Whippler, it's good to see him back out there. Zach Zinter, and then, Jackson Barton from
Zach's
Utah.
at right guard, Whippler's at center?
Correct. Yep.
Okay. All right. Well, we need those guys to come along a little bit. Good job by you guys on the copious notes. A couple of notes from around the league as, this is the mandatory portion. So when you see people not showing up for this, you start to take notice of it. And probably the headline of the day is that T.J. Watt, who is seeking a new deal, is not at Steelers' mandatory minicamp. No progress on a long-term deal there. Yeah. So that one is there were whispers about a month ago. In fact, there were even some whispers about that maybe they would trade him. But that he wants a new deal and there's no progress on a new one there.
So that lends credence because didn't he have some kind of emoji back and everybody's like, oh, it's just because he was leaving to go back to his Wisconsin home. Maybe there was a little more to that.
No, he wants a new deal.
Yeah.
Trey Hendrickson wants a new deal as well, so he's not at Cincinnati mandatory minicamp. What I think is a bigger headline down there is that Shamar Stewart is not at mandatory minicamp. So he is their free agent pick, number 17 overall. There is no scenario there's no scenario where it's right for that deal not to be done. And what I understand is the Bengals are trying to do something different with their bonus structure.
Of course they are.
Because of course they
Nickel
are.
and dime.
Yeah. And so in the meantime, this
they're
guy's
making
not
the employees
in camp.
pay for lunch today. Too.
And they need him in camp. But again, this is good news for us. But
Mr. Siciliano just showed me a tweet. Joe Burrow says it is a distraction. Am I correct? Is a distraction that Trey is in here, but he understands Trey's situation, wants him back sooner rather than later.
Yeah, because he's being asked about it. So by definition, it is. Otherwise, he wouldn't be. Right? To me, the biggest one of these, and I think the most surprising one, even more than T.J. Watt, is McLaurin not at camp in Washington. I don't understand. They need him desperately based on what they are, new ownership, trying to get the stadium thing taken care of, a lot of momentum coming off of last season, the NFC Championship game. Get that deal done.
There were some rumblings last week. Was that right?
Yeah,
that he wasn't at OTAs.
Yeah,
you knew this was coming.
You do, but at the same time, come on. Get that deal done and get that taken care of.
Yep.
Couple other ones. Jonnu Smith and Jalen Ramsey will not be at Miami's minicamp this week. Smith seeking a new contract. Jalen Ramsey wants a trade.
Yeah, they're trying to work out trade deals for him, and I would assume maybe for the tight end as well.
All right, second hour of the program, we will play the Shador Sanders. We played the Dylan Gabriel presser. We'll play the Shador Sanders one. And I believe Siciliano's right there. Do I have that right?
Ready
So
to come out of the bullpen for hour 2 with his copious
Let's
notes.
go. You got that coming up next. Cleveland Browns Daily, 850 ESPN Cleveland. Browns fans, single game tickets on sale now. Secure your seats today for the top matchups at Huntington Bank Field during the 25 season. Don't wait. Head to browns.com/tickets now. And now we head back to the podium. Rookie quarterback Shador Sanders.
Go this Gatorade. Shout out Gatorade.
You know.
What's going on?
How you doing? How have you felt that you've played so far going through these mini camps?
What's good?
Now we're ready.
Oh, okay. How I feel like I played. I know every day there's room for improvement in a lot of different areas in my game, so I never feel, I'll say, full. I'll say I'm always hungry. And there's a lot of aspects in football that you could get better at. It's weight room, it's knowing the plays, it's physically, it's throwing different. You can always get precise on more things. So I feel like I put in my day's work, but I know I'm far from where I want to be.
What have you found from when you first walked in the door right before rookie minicamp there to where you are now? Where do you think you have grown the most?
I say spiritually. That's why I say I've grown the most. After draft, getting closer to God and definitely talking to Him consistently, having a real relationship with Him. That's why I say I've grown the most at.
Just the conversations with Joe, with Kenny, even with
Yeah.
Dylan, just how valuable are those for you, and how much do you
Yeah.
are you able to just learn from just talking through things, whether it's a play or any part of this job?
It's real fun having those guys in the room though, because we all, or quarterbacks, we all feel similar ways, but nobody always talks about it. So Joe's the old guy in the room, so I joke with Joe all the time. Every day I see him. And Kenny, he had his experiences throughout his career overall, so then we just share a lot of the same things. And Dylan, of course, we're the same age group, Those guys are older. So me and Dylan, we're the same age group, so we just talk about experiences, just in college and everything so far.
Shador, what kind of jokes do you crack with Joe? It seems like you got him to smile a couple times out there during practice.
Yeah. I mean, I can't tell him all my jokes now. I can't tell you all my jokes, but like whenever you see them or they mic'd up or anything like that, all that stuff is real. That's real questions, but I don't know, because it be a spur in the moment, and then like after that, then okay, it's time to lock back in. Like our minds are always consistently and constantly moving, so I honestly don't even remember what we talked about on the field, honestly.
And on that note of locking in, it seems like right as y'all were going over to the sideline for film review, Joe was giving you some pretty detailed advice on something. What was he walking you through? Do you remember?
Just how to get through the reads quicker and those type of things. And I asked him, I was like, hey, let me know what you think, like what I need to do. So it's like he's seen it, he played it, and like he's a pro, so it's like I'll be dumb, I'll be a fool to not get insight for somebody that had success over all the years that he had.
Hey, Shador, Coach Stefanski said that not many college quarterbacks run play action from under center anymore. Has that been, what kind of challenge has that been? Because it's a big staple of his offense.
Well, it was good that I grown up Little League and all that stuff under center, so it brings me back to Little League days. So I got a good foundation, and now I definitely am going to improve on that, but I have a good solid foundation, and just prep for pro day and all that different type of stuff really make me more comfortable with everything. Everything in life, in any aspect, is going to be a challenge. So it's just, are you going to be the one to overcome the challenge, or are you going to let the challenge get you? So that's how I attack it, and I just want to always look the most professional as possible.
Hey, Shador, you mentioned that.
This is one of, if not the first time that you've been in the back of the line for reps. So how are you managing that part of the challenge?
I'm managing it real well. Yeah. Overall, it's a mentality. It's mental. It's a lot of people in certain situations in their own life, that may not be at the forefront, that maybe had that at one point in time, but you got to know it's going to be bright days eventually, whenever the time comes. So you just always got to be prepared, and you got to mentally take it as just an experience, for anything in life you got to go through different things so you can understand the message that God's trying to give you. So that's why everything I'm way more grateful for
just to come out here to be able to throw the ball around and just be able to get on the field. Like, everything off the field, it is what it is, but everybody know when it's time to get on that grass, then you know who I am.
Shador, you just mentioned for this first off-season workout program in your first training camp. There's obviously a lot of talk about, like, well, can you be the starter as a 5th-round pick? Like, will you make the team? Like, what is your goal when we get to September and the games are really getting played in the roster?
My goal is to be the best teammate and to be as polished as I can be. So, in every aspect, I view things as I got time. I got time to be able to grow and mature, and be able to understand the ins and outs of the defenses and be able to get the good insight from the vets in the room. So I look at it as, a plus. Like, I got time to actually be able to really have a great understanding. And whenever, it's time for me to play, then it's time for me to play. But I'm not looking too far in the future about all that. I'm looking about every day in practice, because I had some misses out there today that, we got to go in there and correct, about Reeves getting in and out drops a little bit faster from under center. So that's the main thing. I'm focused on the small things, and over time, the big things will happen.
Shador, you mentioned your spiritual growth when you first started. What made that happen now?
Well, I wouldn't say now. I always know when God's talking to me. Like last night, if any of y'all see, I tweeted something, because when you sleep, you're most vulnerable. So then that's when I got like real bad. God talked to me in that time. So, and I'm able to recognize that, because before Pro Day it was the same thing. So that's how I know I'm on track. That's how I know I'm living in my purpose, and I understand everything happened for a reason. So I just got a message like at night, and I had to sleep with my flashlight on last night. I slept with my flashlight on last night because I was too scared.
Shador, to go back to the reps and maximizing the reps you're getting, and you talked about a lot of the work you do inside the building too. Just how do you think you're handling that and maximizing the chances you're getting out here by also doing work inside and after practice and things like that?
Well, that's no different than that's normal than what we grew up doing and what we've been doing at Colorado and Jackson. So I just feel like I'm back in my element. It's grass, it's fresh grass. You hear the birds outside, you understand what peace is at this point in life. So, I'm back in my element. I'm excited to be here.
A couple more. Shador, are you more comfortable now? Do you feel?
Do I look more comfortable? I look more comfortable, huh? So yeah, of course I feel more comfortable here. I would say it's just a mindset, it's just an adjustment. You got to go and understand the situation that you're in and be able to approach that and get the best out of it. So life is just based on how you view different things. So you could view things as you're not getting reps in a negative way, or you could view it as, okay, when it's my time to get out there, let's be proactive and let's get warm, let's get going, so there's no excuses. Because when you get out there, nobody cares how many reps you got. Whenever you get in the game, nobody cares if you took a snap before. Everybody cares about production. So that's the main thing. When you get out there, you got to be able to produce.
You mentioned talking to Joe Flacco about going through the reads quickly, and how important do you think that?
Well, I talked to Shiloh too. Shiloh always be telling me about that.
So how important do you think that, and just playing on time, getting rid of it quickly, like how important is that aspect of your game to transition into the NFL?
Well, I think it's extremely important. I took a lot of sacks in college, so I know how that feels on your body, I would say. So it's definitely going through the progressions and getting comfortable and knowing the ins and outs of everything. So when you go on the field, I already have a different type of confidence by myself regardless. But now when you go out there and you know the ins and outs and everything, then it's a whole different type of confidence, you go out there with. So I'm definitely getting to that point, I would say. And by the time I say training camp come, then I'll be there.
You're going to say Jory, Scott, Tony, and Mary Kay.
Do you work with anybody in the break between now and training camp, in particular, anybody different that you haven't worked out with before, whether it be a quarterback trainer, and I know you have done that, but will you also maybe get together with any of these quarterbacks or any of these receivers?
Well, yeah, right now I got to focus on this walkthrough that's about to be later on, and I got practice tomorrow. So I can't mentally, I got to focus on one at a time. I can't think about what I'm going to do for the break I'm going to be at, So I got to be where my feet is. So I'm here right now, and I just got to focus on coming out tomorrow, having a strong day, and walkthroughs, understanding the ins and outs of everything.
Shador, you mentioned God talking to you. What does that look like or feel like to you, or where were you? Like, take us through what that was like.
When?
Last night, you said.
I was in my hotel room. Yeah, I was in my hotel room. I was just talking to a couple of pastors yesterday, just about my purpose, just about everything here, and it's a lot going on. It's a lot going on, I'll say, in my mind, and I understand, what peace is. So that's why I know I'm going home one time. I know I'm going home so I can, just little things in life, like just feeling the wind, hearing the birds, all that different type of stuff. It's something that you value now. It's something I value. So that was the main thing. Hearing what he was saying and understanding the message of what it is that he was telling me yesterday.
We're going to hear Scott and then Tony.
When you talk about staying prepared for those reps that you do get, how do you think you've done taking advantage of them? When we're out here, it seems like you've had some success throwing the ball. Do you feel like you're taking advantage of those opportunities?
Yeah, for sure. But every time the ball hit the ground, I feel a little bit of unsuccess. So I don't really feel great whenever I know it's a completion on the field and I don't get to it. So that's what I'm hard on myself about, and that's what I want to make sure I always improve every day. And in football, it's always going to be good and bad. So you just clean up the bad stuff one day at a time. And after practice, I work on throws, that I missed or things like that. And mentally later on, go through the film and everything. So then you could come out tomorrow and be prepared and learn from that one mistake.
Have you done any virtual reality here yet?
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
What's that like?
It's cool.
You think you benefit from it?
Yeah, I can't say yes or no because I got to spend more time on task with it. Everybody learns different. I'm more like an active learner, so I like seeing, I like being able to pictures, being able to walk through like real life type stuff. So I like it.
Sure, I heard your dad mention on a recent podcast that he's still kind of going through his health challenge.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on. So I'm here not to talk about Pops and them. Yeah. I'm here for the quarterback of the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah, my question was, though, if you don't mind answering this, do you kind of have to just, like you said, be where your feet are and not, I'm sure that's something that would be a worry to you if you let yourself kind of think about it here. So is that something that you're trying to just
I'm focused on learning this playbook and everything I got to do to be the most successful quarterback I could be and be the best teammate I could be. Outside of that, I don't really have no thoughts or, really opinions on anything outside this game.
Appreciate it.
Thanks.
We good.
Oh, appreciate y'all.
Thanks, Shador. Thank you.
All right, there you go. Shador Sanders from the podium. Of course, that is presented by Vivid Seats. Purchase your official fan experience package today for the ultimate game day. Your voice of the Cleveland Browns. Andrew Siciliano going to join us coming up next. You'll listen to Cleveland Browns Daily, brought to you by Ballybet, official sports betting partner, your Cleveland Browns. All right, welcome back in Cleveland Browns Daily. Merely Bo, the great Andrew Siciliano here. Hey, baby, are we on? Is he on?
Oh, look, there's a button. That
Now there's a
turns
button.
your microphone
Now you're
on.
there.
Hey,
he's
baby.
there. He's there. Gibby's.
We're good, Gibby.
Gibby
We're good.
came in
We're good.
like a missile. He's trying to suck down a
good.
salad. He came.
You said, "Hey, baby." It's like Nathan's baby is probably taller than me by now.
He looks great,
doesn't he?
Young Luca looks
Great
great.
name.
Great name.
Luca Dragomir.
So strong.
Like, that's a tennis player right there.
Yeah, I think if it's up to Z, he'll be a golfer. But
Could
I
be
think
a
both
golfer
those
as
things
well.
would work.
But
yeah.
like Luca Dragomir
Yeah.
on court Philippe Chartrier or whatever at Roland Garros, you could hear that.
Yeah, you could. How you doing, man? It's good to
Doing
see
well.
you.
Good to see you.
Back
Good to be-
in?
good to be
Private
here.
plane all worked out? Everybody
No,
got
there
you
was
in
no
there
private
nice?
plane.
Come on.
Happy to fly United, as always.
Through Chicago?
No,
Or
you get a
straight?
direct.
Oh, the direct.
Yeah, buddy.
That's right. I did that for spring break. We did it out that way.
It's fantastic.
It's so nice
Yeah.
to be able to do that. Okay, you've been through a lot of these.
Yeah.
What importance do you put on these three practices different from the last month?
I think it is important, maybe more so this year than in years past. Look, mandatory minicamp, as we all know, is like your last work before school is out for summer. It's also, in this day and age, kind of your real work, not your only real work, but your real work with your full team and a chance to make a last impression before you break for the summer. Now, you don't see many 4-person quarterback derbies. So it is legit, but it's also football in shorts. And as a coach, there's only so much that really matters when it's football in shorts.
Yeah. Yeah, there is. It's interesting because usually now, you use the school analogy, and usually the end of school is kind of now it's turned into like just nonsense, really. The last week's kind of just nonsense. It's kind of like having like the off-season final.
It is.
It's what
Yes.
this is. And so here we go. Here's the whole team. Everybody's here. It's a time when a message can be sent. And you and I will talk about some of these holdouts that are going on around, whether it's TJ Watt or Trey Hendrickson or Terry McLaurin or whoever. Those two happen to be in our division. So it matters that everybody's here. And I think in this quarterback competition, all the pieces matter too. I think it's the wire. I think everything does matter. I don't think it matters that Joe didn't get a snap today. Because if you listen to the
that's
show,
the way that I would like to do it.
Yes.
You know what Joe can do. It's
We
fine.
know what
Let
he
the
is.
other guys do their thing. And I think Joe's probably cool with that as well. I'd have to assume.
I do think that they're almost the reality of what this quarterback competition is going to be, and then kind of the way that it's playing out for some of the fans in terms of how they think it's going to go. And we've given them the real truth. But I think kind of what you saw today gives you a pretty good example of the way that the coaches view this thing.
Yes, you need the young guys to get the work. You need Kenny Pickett to get the work. And to your point, and you and I were talking off the air, I need to pump the brakes for everybody and ask for patience and caution and wait until September. I talked about this with Jack Conklin. It'll be a best pod available coming up, I think, maybe tonight. It's June.
Yeah.
No one makes a quarterback decision in June. And no rookie, save for like a number 1 overall pick, has ever won a quarterback competition in June when there are veterans in the room. I don't care where you're picked. Jaden Daniels was named the starter last year. Caleb Williams was named the starter last year. Now, what Matt Eberflus did was name Caleb the starter right out of the gate. He was the number 1 overall pick, but that you don't see that often.
No.
We don't have 2 number 1 overall picks here. Right? We're not going to replay the draft or relitigate the draft.
Yeah.
You have to win that job in August and September. I think it is fantastic this year that all 3, so Browns fans everywhere, all 3 games are going to be simulcast nationally. Those games will mean something this year, and the joint practices will mean more than they have ever meant against a defending Super Bowl champion, against an up-and-coming Carolina team. It's a meaningful training camp. Everyone says you walk through training camp last year. There is no sleepwalking through training camp this year.
Did you notice that tone difference?
Yes, and I talked about it with Grant Delpit last week and talked about it with Jerry Conklin, I'm sorry. Jack Conklin. I saw Jerry Judy downstairs. Jack Conklin today. The intensity that everyone felt in OTAs was the intensity we felt out there today. Within reason, because you can only go so intense here.
Yeah, without pads, there's only so much you can do. But at the same time, just the demand. The other thing that I think is so critical, and this is why I keep using the line, all the pieces matter, There are only so many minutes in a practice.
So many
there are
reps.
only so many reps. And so everything you do is critical. And if you're these three young guys, and I put Kenny in there with them. I mean, they picked him first in that they traded for him. They picked Dylan first in the draft. He was a third. Shador was a fifth. So that's your pecking order. But in terms of if you get 5, if you get 12, if you get 7, everyone you take matters because they're being judged by everything they do, not just on the practice field, but on the whiteboard and in the meeting room.
I think I would send this message. This job will be won. It will not be gifted.
Yeah.
It has to be won. You will know who wins this job. And if none of the other three can win it, then it's Joe Flacco's job. It might be. He might win it, but the idea that we're going to see a lot of Joe Flacco in the preseason, I think, is absurd. We're not. We shouldn't. No. I don't want to see him. I know what he can do. We can see it out here. We'll see it. We'll see it in those joint practices, undoubtedly, but I don't need to see it in the preseason. I could see a world in which Dylan Gabriel or Shador Sanders throws 3 touchdowns in the preseason opener against Carolina to Luke Floria, and that'll be the only thing that ESPN talks about the next week. That is going to happen.
Yep.
And then, who gets the job come September 7th, I have no idea.
When you think about in your career, and you've been in Los Angeles obviously for a long time, have you experienced a true quarterback competition where you were around it? Obviously, you used to do a lot of the Rams stuff. Is there one that you can point to? Because I'm thinking back, and of the one, we only really had one since I've been doing this, and that was the very first one with Bake. And that was a little farcical how far Hugh went to kind of rearrange it.
He told him he wouldn't win the job.
Right. And then he had the thing on Hard Knocks where he brought him in to promote him to be the backup, like just some nonsense stuff. But like that's the only one that I've seen. But that was my very first training camp here. And it was you knew inevitably it'd be Bake. It's just a matter of when. But I've seen it in college a lot. But I've never been through like a true quarterback competition, certainly never a 4 quarterback competition. But I'm telling you, in the ones that I've seen in college, all of the pieces matter, and when they take reps matters. Who they rep with matters, always, because it's finite, the amount of reps that are available.
And I think it was important today that Shador Sanders was out there with some guys you might actually see on Sunday, and that hasn't been the case, at least when the media has been out there. Before today, he threw some nice balls. Dylan Gabriel also put one right on Deontay Johnson where Carson Schlesinger was looming and lingering, and he dropped the ball. So they both made some good throws. To answer your question about a legit one, not with the Rams. We never really had one.
No.
When Jared Goff was taken the first round, I think it was Case Keenum who was going to get the job. Like, Jeff Fisher wasn't going to give him the job.
Yeah.
It wasn't like a huge thing. You go sit in the corner. But you knew Jared wasn't going to be the guy out of the gate, and he eventually took over, and then Jeff got fired. But no, like a real legit competition.
Because then it went right to Stafford, so you just rarely see it.
Very often, like in college, like the 4 quarterback thing is a college thing. It's like we got, and then somebody inevitably transfers.
Yeah. And honestly, buddy, it's not even like a big-time college thing. Usually they have it locked into 1 or 2.
Behind the scenes, they know, but they're going to throw the 2 blue chippers out there and the other kid who's been there for 4 years now, and you're going to give him a shot.
Yeah. But it's rare to have like, hey, man, best man win, here's 4 of you. There's not a lot of examples
It's
of
why the joint practices really do mean that much.
They're critical. And that's why that's why rookie minicamp had 100 people in it. That's why you had to have 2 fields going all the time, because you just have to maximize it.
And that's what was kind of frustrating. Listen, we're all here. I like the attention. Bring the attention on. Bring the smoke on. But the idea that you can make these sweeping conclusions from anything we see today or back in rookie minicamp. I mean, those guys were throwing. Now, some of those guys get signed, McDonald and Floria, and good. Like, they made a name for themselves. Floria had that great back shoulder from Shador in rookie minicamp. It went viral. He got a job out of it. That's fantastic. He's a great hometown story. Love it. But Harold Fannin was really probably the only guy at rookie minicamp catching passes, save for the 2 backs, that you will see do anything on Sunday. So the idea that you can make some conclusion from rookie minicamp, but you turn the TV on, all the screaming head shows, like, guys, pump your brakes. Pump your brakes.
Yeah.
But buckle up at the same time.
Yeah, but it's going to be fun. Enjoy the ride. All right. we talked a lot about the quarterbacks, obviously. What else jumped out to you day one as you observed?
It was fun to watch Mason Graham stand out there and talk and laugh with Myles Garrett and do some drills with Jacques Cesaire, the D-line coach, and get off the ball. I don't want to read too much into it, but look like they're working on some outside pass rush moves, so moving him around a lot. That'll be fun. I know he can get to the quarterback. They talk about taking the handcuffs off, so I'm interested to see that. First time we've seen Dwan Jones out there. Didn't get a chance to talk to him, so don't know why he wasn't here for the voluntary program after signing, but he's here for the mandatory program. He can still move.
Mhm.
I mean, he's got those movement abilities. Is it going to work? I don't know. He has that one drop pass. I mean, he just got here, so I don't know. What else? First time I've seen Dwan. I wasn't here last week. He is definitely slimmed down.
Yeah.
Good to see Dylan Sampson working out wide as well. The Shador deep ball has already gone viral. Our friend Jory Epstein from Yahoo was the one who caught the video. He threw a pretty deep ball in 7-on-7. There's no pass rush. It's 7-on-7. But he uncorked that nice deep one, and that is the one that's going to get played on SportsCenter and NFL Live all night tonight. It looks odd to see Cornelius Lucas out there wearing Jed Will's number, but I had not yet seen that in the OTAs because I was not here last week, as mentioned. What else?
Swessinger
looks
the part, right?
He absolutely looks the part. Good to see Jerome Baker out there as well. Good to see Njoku out there. Spoke to Jack Conklin, as mentioned. He echoed everything that Joel said last Monday at Westwood Country Club about the 2020 and 2021 install, about Mike Bloomgren and the difference in attitude.
Yep.
And he said, I said, do you think this group still, and because Joel said, we're all older now.
Mhm.
So do you think this group still has it?
Yeah.
I said, yes, we do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we had Dwan in here off the top of the show, and one of the things that was good to hear was, Luke Whippler back, because there's some future planning that needs to get locked in. Like, you need a nice year out of Zach Zinner.
You do.
He struggled last year, having to maybe jumped into the fire a little bit before he was ready, and they need him to bounce back because, yes, that old group still has it, but it's getting to become an older group, especially in the interior of it. So you need some future planning here.
You have 3 expiring contracts on that O-line. You do need to know whether or not Zach Zinner and Luke Whippler can be the next guys up, or for that matter, a reclamation project and a former first-round pick like Tevin Jenkins can be that guy as well, who, when they kicked him inside, was a pretty consistent player for the Bears. Do you have to play him outside? You hope it doesn't have to get to that, but could he be a potential piece there? The NFL is littered with former first-round picks that didn't work somewhere on the O-line specifically, who went somewhere else and realized their potential. If Tevin Jenkins can be one of those future pieces, and you see that this year, and in whatever kind of role you give him, that would be huge.
It's probably the hardest evaluation, other than quarterback at the top, is probably those tackles, because it's just hard to know. Like if a guy can go or not. They can have all the tape in the world, and you just don't know when they get to the league if they're sure things. I mean, Joe was a sure thing, but there's a bunch of guys that were drafted high. We had Greg Robinson in here, who was with St.
Austin
Louis
Corbett,
at the time.
second round.
Yeah, I mean, there's guys who were drafted really high, and you just don't know. And Jed's one of those, and now it sounds like he's going to take the year off. I did want to ask you about because one thing that I still have a concern about roster-wise is the wide receiver position. Cedric Tillman was not out there. He was not out there last week.
Mike Woods wasn't out there either today. Yep.
Yeah. And you mentioned Deontay just had the one go his way, and it was dropped, didn't work out. And he wasn't here at OTAs. That room, to me, I would not be surprised if there was some people brought in there, and I don't just mean bodies. It feels like they need to add something.
I agree with you. Dwan Johnson's a lottery ticket, and listen, I'm not trying to be mean-spirited here. You look at his journey last year, you can't count on him, right? It's, I hope it works out. That's the way you look at it. Hey, I hope it works out. There's no guaranteed money on this contract. If it works out, home run. If not, move on. No harm, no foul, as I mix sports metaphors here. But, you got to go find someone else, in all likelihood, by the end of camp. But I am a Cedric Tillman believer. But you need to see more of it.
Gotta see it.
You need to see it.
Yeah.
Like, you had that great 5-week window or 4-week window, whatever it was, and you're banking on that window not only being repeatable, but that you could grow off of that. hope you can.
He passes every look test, and when he's healthy, he looks the part. You just need a full season out of him. Is what you need. You need him to be productive. Like, he can't just be Jerry's the one. You need a legit 2. Everyone's pointing on said to be the guy, and we'll see how he handles it. But yeah, that'll be something to pay attention to see if somebody pops there. All right, well, coming up next, we'll go over what we expect to see tomorrow, some things we're looking forward to. We also now officially see Nick Chubb in navy blue down in Houston.
Yeah.
It's gonna.
Sorry
I don't
about
know
that.
if I ever want to get used to that, but I guess we'll have to. We'll get into all of that coming up next. You listen to Cleveland Browns Daily. It's presented by Bally Bet, official sports betting partner of your Cleveland Browns on 850 ESPN Cleveland. Add more fun to your fandom with the Ballybet Sportsbook app. Download today, a 50 back and bonus bet. You place that first wager of 10 or more. Ballybet, official sports betting partner of your Cleveland Browns. Now official. Yesterday we talked about this, but we did not have a statement from ownership at the time that we did. But now official, Nick Chubb is a Houston Texan. You see him this morning down in Houston in the Navy uniform wearing number 21. Our ownership, D and Jimmy Haslam, with this statement. We want to take this opportunity to thank Nick Chubb for all he's done for the Cleveland Browns. For the last 7 years, Nick gave everything he had to our fans, this organization, this city, always represented our team as the consummate professional and in a manner that showed his passion and love for the game of football. Nick has always been about hard work and letting his play on the field do the talking for him. We are so grateful for so many memories, so many moments he created on the field that we'll never forget. One moment that stands out most is him stepping out of bounds at the 3-yard line instead of scoring after a 59-yard run to ensure a victory in a game against the Texans in 2020. Nick always puts winning above any personal accolade, and that is what makes him so special. Thank you for being a Brown, Nick. We look forward to the day we celebrate your career as a member of our Ring of Honor. So we had hypothesized that would be clearly the case yesterday, but making that part official as well. You've been on the call for some of those, my friend, and a long Browns fan your whole life. Nick Chubb's spot for you?
Like on the pantheon of all-time greats, he's the greatest Browns running back without a doubt of my generation. I was very partial to Eric Metcalf as a kid, but much, much different football player.
Sure.
I'm too old to remember the Pruitts. I have their football cards, but I can't remember any of their great moments. Kevin Mack and Ernest Biner, the 85 Twin 1,000 yards team, and then the 86 playoff run, those great Bernie teams. I love those guys, but no one did as much as Nick Chubb and said as little, right? Not all leaders are loud. He was the epitome of leadership through his actions, through his attitude, through his work ethic, and undoubtedly through his play. Without last year, where he clearly wasn't himself, right? He would have a 5.25 career average. That's Hall of Fame material. Yeah. Nick Chubb is a Hall of Fame back who, at least here, wasn't able to finish that Hall of Fame career. I hope he kills it in Houston. I don't know that he will, but I hope that he does. And Miles said the same thing down there when Miles was talking. I don't know. Did you guys play that?
We played some of it. We joined it in progress. We got a portion of it, yeah.
So Miles was asked about it, and he said, it kills you, like it guts you. I'm putting words in his mouth. It wasn't the exact phrasing. But at the same time, he's happy for Nick and how hard it was for the entire locker room to lose him that night in Pittsburgh in September 2 years ago, but how much it meant to have him come back. Look, it means the same to Miles and his teammates as it means to everyone listening to this show right now. He had that effect on everybody. You and I always joke about like jerseys, like players cycle through, all of us cycle through. We are stewards of the game and we're lucky to be here. Nick Chubb's the guy that you bought the jersey for because it didn't matter where he went because he is that guy. And his letter last year in the Players Tribune when he came back week 7, and yes, I am flattered and honored to have been on the call when he did score that one touchdown on 4th down. I cringe listening to it because I think I yelled a little bit too much, but that was real.
That's
right?
all real, brother.
That we were all that excited, and to hear him come out of the tunnel that way, he is that guy. But Miles said today, because someone intimated, like, "Hey, you got to be rooting against him." He's like, "No, no, we all want the best for him."
Yeah, he's one of those. You have those 24 jerseys. Keep wearing them.
Yeah,
keep wearing them.
I've got one.
Yeah,
I don't buy jerseys, but I've got one.
Yeah. No, he's unbelievable, and it was, you knew it was coming, and I was preparing for it, but at the same time, it was weird this morning to see him in a uniform other than ours
and wearing the 21.
Yeah.
By the way, GM of the Houston Texans from Lyndhurst.
That's right.
Okay. Offensive coordinator of the Houston Texans from Canton.
Yeah, that's true.
So the people in Houston, the people in Houston are Browns fans, put it this way.
Yeah.
And I'm saying that with a little bit of knowledge here. Like, they've always admired Nick Chubb.
I don't know a single person who has come in contact with him personally, or anyone who has rooted for him or has been even in a stadium with him or has watched him on TV, who does not respect and love him. I mean, just a completely 100% universal approval rating. That's rare in our business, in football and sports. Think about the way Mike Tomlin talked about him. Mr. Chubb.
Mm-hmm.
Come on. I mean, that is universal. It's rare. There aren't that many where you can't find anybody to say a cross word, and there's not one for Chubb.
Have you gone down, and the Browns tweeted a whole bunch of these.
Yeah.
But have you gone down like the Nick Chubb highlight rabbit hole?
Dude, yeah.
And some of the ones like I forget from 18, and obviously the one in Oakland and in Baltimore. But there is a gear. He didn't have it like even heading into 23. That gear. I don't know if that gear was still there, but the power and the vision were always still there.
Yes.
And the gear was good enough. But that gear that he had in 2018, where he gets to the second level and you're like, oh, those 4 guys got angles. Like, no, they don't. They thought they did. And then he is gone. And then the young Nick Chubb celebration, which there was a little bit more than there ever was at the end, where he's got the arms out kind of gliding when he gets across the goal line. Like, those make me happy. Like, those are awesome.
It was magical. It was. And it's, and we wish him all the best, obviously. All right, tomorrow we'll do day 2.
Yeah. I don't know what the quarterback, because I had to dip out of Kevin. I know he said that the Flacco thing today was for a reason, meaning fewer reps and more reps for the young guys. I had to go tape Jack Conklin, so I don't know if Kevin laid out what day 2 is going to look like.
I didn't hear that. I didn't hear that, and I haven't heard anything about laying out the rep. My hunch is that he wouldn't share that even if he knew it, knowing him.
Yeah.
But that's really where the attention continues to be, and deservedly so. If you're going to have 4, then all the attention is going to be on the 4 of them and how they look.
As well it should. It is a legitimate quarterback competition, and stop me, is there another one in the NFL? I don't know that there is another legitimate quarterback competition. No, there isn't.
Every time
there is not another. Unless I'm missing something.
Every time I do this, I have to pull up like the standings and go through them.
There isn't.
G-Man said the Saints.
The Saints.
There you go. Good job, G-Man.
Thank you, G-Man.
Great job.
Saints. So the Tyler Shuck,
Spencer
Rattler, Jake Hayner.
God bless you for dropping a Jake Hayner upside our head. I didn't see that coming, brother.
Jake Hayner.
So he's in the mix. Yeah, that's it, though. There's nothing else.
Mother, a Bay Area TV anchor, by the way.
Is that true?
Yeah.
How about that? No, that's it. It's just that. It's not a competition, but there's a ton of questions around quarterback. Like, I would love to hear how it goes for J.J. McCarthy in Minnesota.
Sure.
Haven't seen him play in a while, but it's his gig.
Yeah. We'll always have that
Cam
one
Ward.
Saturday in August last year for J.J. McCarthy, and hopefully he can get back to that.
Yeah. I haven't heard any reporting out of Pittsburgh on how it's going for Rodgers over there.
We were just saying he has not talked yet. I think they just started practice.
He'll be on the podium later this afternoon.
Yes.
Yeah. And actually, if there's any solace here, if you don't want the Browns quarterback, if you're one of these people like me that is trying to stress patience and not jumping to conclusions, Aaron Rodgers speaking today will be the number 1 NFL story. Not anything that the Browns 4 quarterbacks did. And I am still fascinated by the fact that Steeler fans, seemingly, at least in my social media mentions, are so universally against this move for them.
Oh, I want him to take down this franchise so bad. Single-handedly just destroy
Pittsburgh Peapod.
I want him to take it down.
I just don't even believe it, though. I don't believe that they really are. I think that they're going to be. You're going to. All you want as an NFL fan is hope.
Sure.
And you can talk yourself into him having something left in the tank pretty easily.
I don't think a lot of them can.
I think they will.
I think
by
they
the time
have
they
this.
Get there.
This silly,
by the way, I was right. I told you.
What?
That it was predetermined that he was
going to
be there
him?
all the way. Yeah. Give me a little. You always were pushing back.
Sure.
Come on, I told you.
But you said that the.
I said that everybody knew.
I
and
think
have
it
known
was
for a long time. I
in
said
all
after
likelihood.
Minnesota,
Yes,
said no, this was it, and I think they both known for a long time.
After the Rams said no.
Well, that's true.
Because
how about this? You'd see this. Shamar Stewart, Bengals rookie, things heating up down there. 17th pick in the draft. This is the quote from Shamar Stewart. Jordan Schultz with this. We all agree Trey will be all right, but technically he's still 1% wrong for being under contract. In my case, I'm 100% right. That's the 17th pick in the draft.
His agents have told him don't sign if they're gonna and
don't participate.
Don't
sign it.
Participate. Yeah. The only first round pick not on the field.
Yeah.
is Shamar Stewart. I think there's one or two that have not yet signed.
There was another one that just signed today.
But those guys have all been on the because a bunch of them hadn't signed by rookie
Yeah.
minicamp, but they were, or even at the beginning of OTAs, but they were on the field. You sign your basic waiver and you get out there, you're fine. But evidently, and I'm not a salary cap expert, but whatever the Bengals are putting into their contract, like his agent has said to him, like that's not good enough protection.
No. Wild. So much more to come. You listen to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. How about the fact no NHL or NBA tonight? Neither one. How do they not have their schedules lined up?
The way they stagger this thing is so frustrating. Like the idea that game one of the NBA was Wednesday or Thursday of last week?
Thursday.
And then, of course, they always do this every year.
Thursday.
They drag game 2 to Sunday.
Yep.
Yeah.
But then instead of playing tonight, they're playing tomorrow, which makes the NHL play Monday and Thursday. They're in South Florida, mind you, the whole time.
Hey, more eyes on Slade Ciccone tonight.
There you go.
There you go.
I don't know who that is.
He's the guy you got for Josh Naylor.
Is that baseball?
He's a right-hander who's pitching tonight for the Guards. He's the guy you got for Josh Naylor who had a walk-off.
Are the Guardians? Is that that's
30?
That's
30.
Indians? Used to be Indians?
Yes, that team.
Oh, that franchise.
The Local 9.
The Local 9, as it were.
Yes.
Good talking to you, buddy.
Likewise.
As
See you
always,
tomorrow.
we'll do it again tomorrow. Day 2, mandatory minicamp. The next level is coming up next. Thanks for listening, everybody. Cleveland Browns Daily, presented by Bally Bet, official sports betting partner, Cleveland Browns on 850 ESPN Cleveland.